All right. Well, welcome back once again. This is lesson 7.4, and again, this is our problem-solving lesson for this chapter, our seventh in the course of the year. And this one is called writing an equation. This is not a specific strategy that's got some neat little gimmick to try. This is kind of more like the very first problem-solving lesson where we emphasize the importance of reading. Okay. Here's an example, and by the way, Ben is here helping me today. So here's an example. Ben, you want to go ahead and read the question?
Suppose moving vans cost $29.95 a day, plus 12 cents a mile. If you rent a van for 2 days and your bill was $70.46, how far did you drive?
Now, there's a couple ways that we could solve this. If we solved it without an equation, what we would probably do is we would take the $70.46, work it backwards. Take the $29.95 off for each day, which is going to remove about $59 or so. Figure out how much money is remaining and divide it by 0.12 cents, which is going to give us a pretty significant mileage figure. Okay, but what we want to do in this is actually set it up as a formal algebraic equation. We're going to define our variables, we're going to actually write an equation, we're going to solve it, we're going to check. In fact, those are the principles that are going to guide us in taking a word problem and carefully turning it into an algebra problem and solving it. So as always, step one is read. Read it at least twice beforehand, maybe even a third time, and make sure we know what we're doing. Always identify the variable and define it. And by define it, I mean write a let statement. We'll practice that in just a second. Finally, write an equation and go ahead and solve it. And then just like read is super important, always check at the end to make sure you get the right answer. All right, so let's back up for a second and let's apply those principles to this equation. All right, so the first thing we're supposed to do is define our variable. All right, well, to define the variable, look for what the question's asking. What's the final question?
$70.46.
That's the bill. That's part of the information. But the question asks what? How far did you drive? So right there, define the variable to answer that question. Let's D equal the miles we drove. Okay, we'll use D because it's driving, right? That's it. So we define that variable. Now, what would the cost equal? And by the way, we could say let C equal cost. But we're going to go ahead and substitute in $70.46 in a second. But we'll start out. So the cost is equal to $29.95 times the number of days we rented it. This was a 2-day rental, so we can go ahead and just go ahead and put the 2 in there, right? Plus 0.12 cents for every mile that we drove, and that's the variable D. All right, and that's a plus sign right there. All right, so that's my equation. Let's replace this first C with the amount $70.46, and now very systematically and algebraically we can solve this. So we have 70.46 is equal to, let's go ahead and double $29.95, and that will equal $59.90 plus 0.12D. We'll solve this. We'll do SADMEP, so we'll first get rid of the $59.90. Okay. And we're going to get 0.12D is equal to 6, 5. Looks like $10.56. So now what I need you to do on the calculator, Ben, is let's divide both sides by 0.12. Which is the same thing as 1,056 divided by 12 if I had cleared the decimal. And I should get that D is equal to 88 miles. Okay, we're going to label that, and then we're going to check it. We're going to take 88 miles, and we're going to multiply by 0.12. We're going to add $29.95 times 2 to that, or add $29.95 twice, and we should get this amount, $70.46. Okay? Again, the principles are read the question super carefully, identify the variable and define it using a let statement, write an equation and solve it, and then check. All right. What I'd like you to do now, I'm not going to actually give you the solution to this. I'd like you to solve this question on your own and come to class ready to discuss this tomorrow. So let's do the same thing. Let's suppose now that we have a 3-day rental. Again, don't forget it's $29.95 per day and 0.12 cents per mile. All right? And let's figure out if it's a 3-day rental this time. Obviously, we're going to have that $29.95 3 times. The total cost is $104.49, so I want you to come up with your own equation and then show an algebraic solution to solve this. Okay? We will practice these tomorrow in class, but for Ben and I, that's it. I promised I'd keep the video short today, so at 5 minutes, we're going to call it quits. So we'll practice this in class tomorrow. See y'all.